Hey everybody, this is Jennifer with Giddy Jen Plans. Welcome back to my channel. And if you would like to watch me do a new segment called In My 30s, then just keep on watching. Alright guys, so this is kind of different. Usually you just see my hands and my planner, but today I decided to do something a little bit different. I am in my 30s. I am actually 37 right now. I will be 38 in a couple of months. Crazy. And I have a lot going on that the regular 30-year-old might not normally have going on. And so I thought I would make a segment called In My 30s, and I would have a topic. Today's is called School in My 30s. And so that is something that I really wanted to do, because for those other people out there who might be in my same position, it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes. Sometimes you just move right in, you go with the flow, but sometimes it can be an adjustment. And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. Something that I really am excited about on this segment is that I will have my email down below. And so I want you guys to be involved. If there's somebody out there who is 30, or even if you're not in your 30s, but you're in school and you have questions, I definitely want you to email me and put in the subject line in my 30s, and then let me know what you want to know. Like if you want to know study habits, which is going to be coming up in my 30s, or Jen, planners in my 30s, because I'm all about planners on this channel, but I am trying to mix it up just a little bit and add a little bit of a different theme to my channel. I kind of want to incorporate a little bit of makeup because I love makeup, so I'm thinking about having like makeup in my 30s. That's going to be coming up pretty soon, hopefully, fingers crossed. I hope that this segment goes over well, because it is something that I have been wanting to do, and I decided to just go for it. So I don't really like being in the camera, but I thought I don't want you to just see my hands and me talking with my hands about in my 30s. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So before we get started, definitely follow me on Instagram at Giddy Jen Plans. Subscribe to my channel. Give this video a big thumbs up and click that notification bell. That way you are notified each and every time that I do upload. Alright guys, so without any further ado, let's go to school in my 30s. Alright, so school in my 30s. Where do I begin? Let's see, I'm trying to figure out where to start. So when I was 18 years old, I got my very first job in a doctor's office. It was a very small doctor's office, and I was the front desk person. Well, that was not my really first job. Like, I had worked in a music store because I was going to grow up and be a famous singer. Didn't happen. That's okay. And so I started working in a doctor's office because I thought, well, I need a job with security, and I'm getting older. I was young, y'all. I was 18, but I did not want to do the college thing. I did it for one semester to become a church minister of music. Wasn't for me. I had an A in all of my music courses, and D's and F's in English, math. I didn't care for all the prereqs. I was like, wasn't that what we just did in high school? Yeah. So that was my mindset. So I started working in a doctor's office, and it just accelerated from there. Of course he's gonna bark right now. It just accelerated from there, and I started working in other doctor's offices. I became a biller at one point. I did some billing, and so it was just medical field for me, and I was cool with that. I had never wanted to do anything more. I was content with being a biller and being a front desk person. They need those jobs. People think that those are kind of the back jobs. They're the most important. You can't get to the doctor without the front desk, and you cannot get services without being billed. So they're very important. but they might not pay as much. Some of the jobs I had paid really, really well, and then some of them didn't. I'm not from where I live now. I actually used to live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I worked at a really big company there, and they paid me a great amount of money. So it just depends on where you live. Whenever I moved to where I live now, I live in Arkansas, I got laughed at whenever I went in for interviews saying, yes, I would like this amount. I got laughed at, literally laughed at. And so it just depends on where you live. And so, I don't know. I was in a relationship, a really long relationship, and I was terrified to turn 30. I was in my 20s. I was having fun, whatever. And whenever I turned 30, the light bulb, ding, went off. I realized that the relationship I was in was no longer healthy. I don't think it ever was, but that's okay. And I realized that I had to get out and move on. So at that point, I was working in doctor's offices still as a biller, actually, and customer service. I have a great telephone voice. And so, yeah. So I ended up moving to, or working in Memphis, and I had to move there. I didn't move into Memphis, but kind of nearby. So I did that for a little while. I was making great money, but I was miserable. I really was just miserable. So flash forward to I was 33. There we go. So whenever I was 33, I was actually at a funeral of all places, and I had kind of been looking into medical transcription. I had to stay in the medical field because I knew it was growing. I knew a lot about it, so I felt like I had to stay in that. And so I looked into medical transcription because I thought I could stay at home, I could do this, but honestly, though I'm an introvert, I love to be at home. I can also be like an outward person, like a very, I don't know, I like to be around people sometimes. It just depends on how I feel, and the older I get, the more I liked being around people, and so I realized that medical transcription was not for me. So back to the funeral. I was at a funeral, and I told a couple of the people I was singing at a funeral, and some of the other people that were singing, I told them, I was like, hey, I really want to go to school, but gosh, I just don't know what I want to be, and this one girl said, well, have you ever looked into what this other person does, who went to church with us? And I'm like, well, no, what does he do? And it was occupational therapy assistant, and I thought, okay. I went home, this is the funniest part. On my way home, I drove into the wrong parking lot. Like, I've driven this way so many times, and I drove into a parking lot and almost hit a sign. And when I looked at that sign, it said, we offer occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. And I was like, oh my goodness, Father, you are leading me to occupational. So I went home. I started doing research on it. I think it was like August. The semester was about to start, so I realized I needed more time to really get my ducks in a row. And so in that time, I turned 34, and I decided to attend a school. It was a 2-year school to become an assistant. I didn't want to go be a doctor in it. Like, I didn't want to get my doctorate degree. So I decided to go to the 2-year college, and I would start in January. And so January came, January 2016, which blows my mind. And I started doing my prerequisites. They were hard as crap. I realized that I got along better with professors than students because I was more of the professor's age, but they appreciated me. And they always had respect for me because of my age and of me really wanting to do this. If I would have done this at like 18 or even 20 or 24, I would not have succeeded at all. It took me going through life. It took me through just going through, I don't know, just all the changes that you go through. And something in my 30s clicked with me. I don't know. So I started school. I did great. I had a hard time with testing. I realized that I had a lot of test anxiety. I had to sign up for disability services because I would panic on tests, and it was making my grades like be awful. Oh my goodness. So long story short, I got all of my prerequisites done. And I kept telling my friends, hey, if I don't get into the program, maybe I'll look into speech therapy, maybe. Because I actually had a horrible lisp when I was in, like, middle school. I had the worst lisp. I would talk like this. My tongue would always do this. And I didn't really understand it. But I loved speech therapy. I loved it. I would skip class to go see my speech therapist, which is not, please don't skip. That was stupid. Actually, I'm not stupid. I was called stupid all of my life. And so I think that's what really hindered me in going to college. I was not as smart as the smart kids, but I wasn't like a bad kid. So I'd get put in the middle and would not get any kind of help from teachers. So I hated school. But anyways, so I kept saying, maybe if I don't get in, I'll think about speech therapy. We'll see. But I'm going to get in. I just know it. So the time comes a year later to apply and to the OTA, Occupational Therapy Assistant Program. Didn't get in. Did not get in. I was crushed. I really was crushed. I was like, here I have poured out my heart and soul into these last few semesters. I have busted my rump. I'm in my 30s. I don't have much time. That's what I keep telling myself, which I do. It's just you get older and it's scary. But anyway, so I didn't get in. And so I was at work one day and I realized, I was like, okay, maybe I should think of that speech therapy. Maybe I should think about it. So I emailed the director of the program. She emailed me back, said, hey, why don't you come by? It was over the summer. I went by, I talked to her, and she was like, wow, your grades are good. You seem like you've got a good personality. I think speech could be for you, So I thought, okay, let me do it. Let's just try it. And so I ended up taking some courses that fall. I got into like the intro class. I got an A. First test I had ever made 100 on was in Intro to Communication Disorders, which is speech therapy. So I thought, okay, this might could work, And then I started taking more classes, and I fell in love with the program. I felt like some things that I not only had speech therapy for a lisp, I had vocal polyps growing up. And so I was starting to understand, why I had speech issues. Like, okay, this feels pretty good. I had a rough semester. About a year later, there were some pretty rough classes. In fact, I had 2 professors tell me, these are the 2 worst. If you can get through them, you'll be fine. And so I decided to go ahead and apply to the OTA program again. It had been a year. Let's see what a year has done. See if this is what I am supposed to do after all. So I applied, and I didn't get in. So I realized that maybe speech is the way for me. And I have stuck it out, and I just started my senior year. I made it into the undergraduate program in my major, which is a big thing. And then I will actually be applying to grad school in just a few months, which is mind-blowing. So yeah, it took me a couple of times, but every time I think back to that point where I almost hit the sign, I think, Jen, you were so focused on it saying occupational, but it actually also said speech therapy. So I feel like God sends us things to show us, to push us, to get us to see Him and listen to Him sometimes, because sometimes we don't want to do that. So yeah, so that is what led me to this video. I decided might as well make a video about it, talking about how I am in school in my 30s. And so definitely leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this segment, and if you like it. It's just kind of like a journal video, I guess, of things in my 30s. And like I said, I have some ideas that I really want to, talk about and do for this segment. And so until then, definitely email me if there's something that you want to hear about or see. I'm going to be doing a study notes, like how I study in my 30s. So definitely let me know if you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, and I will see you very, very soon on the next one. And of course, I will still be making planning videos in between. So I will see you guys very, very soon, and I hope you all have a very beautiful day. Bye.